Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you a video in which I need your help. I've come to the realization that there's technically three, I guess, maybe even four, lists that we've done that includes taking three of a thing and letting it rock, right? We've done this before. We've taken exocrines and three exocrines, three maliceptors. Then that became three exocrines, three tyrannofexes. But what we've done in other places might have a chance now. I've talked about constantly my constant struggle to adapt recently with Death Guard, Forge Fiends, and Knights. Not really figuring out how this can be tolerable for us over here in Tyranids. I talked about one that, getting there, but today, I think I'm working on another. Because what we've done so far is that in Vanguard Onslaught, we've taken 30 Gene Stealers and 3 Root Lords and thrown them at our opponent's face. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We've also taken three Norn emissaries and Crusher Stampede and Synaptic Nexus. I guess technically reverse the order if we want to be chronological about it, right? Um, and usually that tends to end up being a bit of a problem. What if you take two problems and throw them at your opponent's face? And that leaves us with 530 points left. As you can see, I didn't include a Hive Tyrant here, and I didn't include a Biovort, both of which are usually auto-include. We have seen a rise of lists without a Hive Tyrant of any variety. Personally, I don't think I'm comfortable enough at that level. And Biovore, we've seen a list uh, without one. Also, don't think I'm comfortable enough without it. But I want to know how you would fill this out and where you would fill it out. Currently, this is listed as Invasion Fleet because why not? But before we go through what I think are the options and all the things, let's review what we're talking about first. So, Broodlord, right? T5, 4 up invuln, 4 up save, 6 wounds. Melee weapon is Broodlord, Claws, and Talons. Devastating wounds, twin linked. 5 attacks in on 2, 622, because it's Synaptic, 722, right? They have Scout, 8 inches, they are 80 points, can attach to Gene Stealers. Vicious Insight, while this model is leading a unit, weapons grouped by models in that unit have devastating wounds, and Hypnotic Gaze at the start of the fight phase. Select one enemy unit within engagement range of this model until the end of the phase. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the hit roll. Alright, pretty nice. Gene Stealers, just to review, T4, 5 up save, 5 up invuln, 2 wounds apiece. You can get 10 of them for 150 or 5 for 75. They have Gene Stealer, Claws, and Talons, 4 attacks and on 2, strength 4, AP2, damage 1. They have Scouts 8 as well. Vanguard Predator, each time a model in this unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. If the target is within range of one or more objective markers, reroll a wound roll of 1 as well. And thinking about it now, literally at this moment as I record that, this might actually be, in a weird way, good too. That they, don't get me wrong, rerolling wound rolls flat out would be better, but I think with the next part that we've already talked about, the objective marker thing might not be too bad. In my head, I was thinking, well, if you just throw 30 Gene Stealers forward to make way for Norn emissaries, you might be into something. But I think helping them get out of a pinch on objectives would be cool too. So Norn emissaries, 10 inches of movement. I should say Gene Stealers are 8, and so is Broodlord, 8 inches of movement. Norn emissary, 10 inches of movement. T11, 2 up save, 4 up invuln, 16 wounds. They have 5 OC, but thanks to singular purpose, at the start of the first battle round, select one of the following. The one that we're doing is select one objective marker. Until the end of the battle, while this model is within range of that objective marker, it has the Feel No Pain 5 up ability and an objective control characteristic of 15. Unnatural Resilience, this model has the Feel No Pain 4 up ability against mortal wounds. 260 points. It's a monster, a psyker. Broodlord is also a Synapse creature as well. So, uh, maybe we should have been taking them together this whole time with some objective situation. But, I say that even though scouts means that they go forward faster, right? There's a difference of 2 inches of movement, but a Norn is a monster. Broodlord Gene Stealers are infantry, go through all the things, right? So that's just a refresher of the units we're talking about today. Where would we put them and why, and what would you fill the rest of this list out with? Remember, there's 530 points left. So before we get to possible units, I think that we should talk about the detachment because that's probably easier. And I don't know how I'm gonna do it yet. I think I might make it a community poll to vote on things to what you think would work out. But I know flat out, if you could just add a comment on what you are thinking, and then upvotes, and then like the person's comment if you agree with it or whatever. Not whatever, but like if you agree with it, I want to chime in on it, and we'll just build from there. I think this could be a neat situation. Because mind you, they all have invones, and a couple of things with my thought process now. I've been like, well, we need invones to survive. People are killing our monsters, they're killing our infantry. We need at least a chance, and I still think that's true. But one thing is that if you can't have a lot of big bodies, which is what I'm more in tune with, maybe a couple of small bodies work, and small enough being Gene Stealers, right? Maybe we don't have to quite get to Gaunt level yet, but that could be something. And then, on the other hand, for the big bodies that have a 4-up infone and feel no pain, that's pretty decent. Right? I think that could be okay. But where would we put them? First off, the basic one, Invasion Fleet. You could get sustained. You probably don't want lethal because you are going for devastating wounds on this many Gene Stealers, so they could get sustained. If you go into like Mortarian's Hammer or the Hammer of the Emperor, I guess you could make an exception, but hey, there's that. Invasion Fleet, you could put enhancements on the Broodlord, such as Alien Cunning, you could redeploy. Uh, we're not looking at Synaptic Linchpin realistically or Adaptive Biology. It could be perfectly adapted to get a reroll in there. But for the stratagems, 5-up Feel No Pain, because they're all Synapse here. For these units that have a 5-up invuln for the Gene Stealers, or to get your Norn to the point. That's pretty decent. Overrun would let us consolidate extra or make a normal move up to 6 inches. Adrenal Surge, 5-up crits on 5s. In the fight phase, that'd be nice. We're not looking at Endless Mode 2 right now, but if you think that there's some play there, maybe you could do a little Endless Swarm thing. Death Frenzy is also another good thing on this many bodies of melee infantry. If you just roll some 4-ups, they still fight on death. So, Invasion Fleet, of course, is into the conversation. Next up, admittedly, I was thinking Synaptic Nexus again until I realized you don't kind of benefit from anything in here. You're not looking at the 5-up invuln is worse for the Norns, and you already have it on the Gene Stealers. You don't really need that. I mean, you could take the advance or charge, roll +1, that's fine. But everybody hits on 2, so the melee attack is whatever as well. Enhancements don't really do it either. Reinforced Hive Node is probably the best thing on this one, if I'm being honest. Irresistible Will is also nice. Fallback, Shoot, and Charge with Override Instincts works. And Smothering Shadow for that Shatter in the Warp turn could be something. But I realized Synaptic Nexus, while they're all Synapse, didn't really have the tools. But, again, this is open to you all making an argument. If you feel that Synaptic Nexus still has something for this style of list, or this list, and then some other units, I'd be happy to hear it. And again, that's just me thinking of it as it right now. If you tell me, yeah, but if I take 2 Maliceptors, then I would justify Synaptic Nexus. Something like that, still up for game. Vanguard Onslaught. I did then go to Vanguard Onslaught, and currently I think I'm drinking the punch that Vanguard Onslaught has a chance because it's better to just not get hit with a lone op situation than trying to figure out how to survive getting hit. So Vanguard Onslaught gives the everybody fall back and charge, so that works on the Norns as well. That's pretty cool. But the Broodlord Genestealers, as we know, would get advanced in charge. That's nice. The enhancements, you get redeploy, you could get point them out, knock them out with Stalker, +1 hit, +1 wound for one enemy unit. When the bearer makes an attack, so when that Broodlord does, Chameleonic can give the bearer stealth, but the entire unit benefit of cover, and hunting grounds if your opponent tries to set up from reserves. They have to roll a d6, and on 2 up, they must take a battle shock test, so more rolling. Stratagems wise, surprise assault, get +1 to hit, possibly +1 to wound. With Vanguard Invader units, Assassin Beats could give them precision. Seated Brood is probably the best thing here, where you can early get a Norn out of reserve somewhere. Invisible Hunter lets you uppy downy. Unseen Lurkers is that lone op I was talking about, where a Vanguard Invader unit can become lone op 18, and if they already have it, 6 inches. So, people are probably going to look to fill in lictors in this. This might be helpful for that. Hypersensory Celia gives you a reactive move for Vanguard Invader units or Tyranids infantry. So Vanguard Onslaught is a shout. Assimilation Swarm. This is where I had strides of the plan coming together, I think. Because what I then realized is, well, what could I just take more of that'll do something? And the Harvester units, for what they are, pretty cheap. All right, I could take my little guys, the Ripper Swarms, take 3 of them, and now I just get regen on some units that my opponent probably didn't want that to happen, and they're cheap. Did I say that they're cheap? We've also in the past seen them straight up replace Biovores. Now, there was an entirely different set of rules. OC0 could still do things, actions notably. But, there was a time where we took Rippers instead of Biovores in some lists. Maybe we could do it again. Pyrovore is also cheap enough. Maybe they could do something. And just, again, on the spiel of, well, I could just fill them up. Also, you have the enhancements that you could attach the Broodlords with. They're pretty okay. Regenerating Monstrosity means you could bring back 2 Genestealers a phase. Now it's not as good as bringing back a 3 wound model, but it's still better than bringing back a 1. Instinctive Defense could give you fights first and free heroic intervention for a unit when near a harvester. Biophagic Flow could just make it so that things flow a little bit better with that regen for 10 points. The harvesters get to do it at 9 instead of 6 inches. Parasitic Biomorphology, 25 points, increase the strength of a unit in melee, and possibly +1 attacks if you are near a harvester when you make something go pop. So that means possibly more devastating wounds. Now, to that aspect, I've been a fan of secure biomass with lethal hits, but you don't really need to do that, which means you could save more command points doing something else like Broodguard Impulse when people do finally pop Rippers or Pyrovores or whatever the fuck else. Because it's any phase. Say that somebody in shooting takes out a Pyrovore, and then in melee takes out a Ripper. If you have, the command points, you could get a little bit funny with it. Reclaim Biomass, Tyrannoform, making it so that you have sticky. Maybe that's another reason that you might forego a Biovore. Maybe a Pyrovore is on an objective in your backfield, sticky that, and then you just throw Rippers in places, possibly. And Rapacious Hunger is also a good one, into which one Tyranid unit, flat out Tyranid unit during your fight phase, if they destroy an enemy unit, they can regenerate. So you might be able to bring back a Genestealer then. That's pretty nice. And Subterranean Assault. Of course, I would have to talk about Subterranean Assault, but admittedly, for a moment, I didn't really see how points would shake out with it. But yeah, if you could find a way to get some burrower units into this list, enough that you can utilize the tunnels, maybe that's fine. You already get reroll heroes of 1 for the Broodlord Genestealers, but it's nice enough on the Norns. Now, this did just get hit though, so Tunnel Network no longer will let you pull out of combat. So if you get into combat, it's kind of fucked. However, I think the Broodlord Genestealers would offer something in Subterranean Assault that is a weakness of Subterranean Assault. if your opponent goes too forward too fast, you have no place to go for your burrower units to let you bring things from reserves. However, um, if you have something that can get out there and get at them, maybe there's some way for Subterranean Assault to have a little bit more play. And especially if you can just throw an orange on their objectives from taking them from point A to point B because a Trigon or some Raveners made a tunnel or two, maybe. And then even to that, I gotta admit, I don't love how you don't have anything when you get hit in this detachment. I've said that before. But if you're looking at Broodlord Gene Stealers that you don't really care how long they survive, and they're just a little bit more annoying with a 5-up invuln, and Norns that you don't need to make them more tanky. We like to do that, but you know, if you throw 3 Norns at the problem, your opponent usually doesn't have a way to do that, right? So maybe if you take units that don't need that, maybe that's the way Subterranean Assault can go. So tunnel network, taking them from point A to point B. Enfilading emergence is also possibly something into which you could give the Broodlord Gene Stealer sustained hits 1. And sustained hits, rerolling hit rollers of 1, devastating wounds. With all these attacks, yeah, that might get you something. Or you could do it on a Norn. That way they're shooting and they're fighting. Gets sustained hits 1 and ignores cover on the range. That's pretty decent. Retreat below 1 Tyranid unit or up to 2 burrow units that are not within engagement range can go up and down somewhere. So 1 Tyranid unit, you could pull a Norn and put it over somewhere else. Well, not in that same one. You could already do that with Tunnel Network, but you could take them out. You can move them, right? That might be helpful. We're not looking at replenishing swarms yet, but again, if you say that you want to bring a bunch of Hormigons to solve the problem, maybe that might help as well. So those are the ones that I think have the best shot of filling out the list of 30 Gene Stealers, 3 Brood Lords, and 3 Norn Emissaries. But let's talk about the ones that I didn't talk about and why. Warrior Bio from Onslaught, I think that's probably a given. I don't rate it too highly. But yeah, I don't see you having enough points to make usable worth of warriors here. And I don't think swapping out the Broodlord Gene Stealers for warriors will work out the same inclination. However, I could be proven wrong. You could warrior bio from Onslaught and take the Broodlord Gene Stealers out and find something else to give you forward pressure. Maybe. And then have the Norns there. They would be able to increase the strength of their gun. They also could have reroll wound rolls of 1. You could find something if you want to do that, maybe. But for today's topic, I'm talking about Broodlord Gene Stealers that have a little bit more success being brought in 3 versus. Because we've seen. Well, actually, we've seen both, but the best success with Vanguard Onslaught list have been 30 Broodlord Gene Stealers and maybe one of the Warriors compared to 3 Warriors, 1 Broodlord Gene Stealer unit, right? So there's that. Unending Swarm is Unending Swarm. I don't see me bringing 500 points of Gaunts to finish off the list, and I don't think 500 points of Gaunts is enough for me to be running Unending Swarm and Crusher Stampede. Yes, while I do like Crusher Stampede, I just can't see much use in another 500 points of monsters while still bringing Broodlord Gene Stealers. I just can't see that fusion of list working out too hot. But again, if you can find something and have, like, no, monster, check it out. If you take X, Y, and Z and then go to this detachment, we might have something there. But as it currently stands, the idea that I would like to see is things that we've done and had results with, basically, right? We've been okay, but quite frankly, this entire edition, I can't think of a single super major, like, giant event that we won. I'm sure there's probably something that the usual suspects did, but I'm having a tough time thinking about it. And then, if that's the case, not to say that everything needs to be that level, right? Um, Being okay is okay, but I just don't. I can't recall being that far up in any like the top tens of these super majors either. Like we've had Assimilation Swarm, I think land fourth, and Subterranean Assault is starting to shake things up. What people are doing with that, but yeah, just to this extent, what if we take the thing we know works over there and the thing that works over there and put them together? So, to all of this, the first question, I guess, is what detachment do you think that this works best in? Next up, Hive Tyrant or no Hive Tyrant? Then Bio Horror. And what else are you using the points on? This is not to say that it will solve our issues, but I think that this is an okay enough skeleton that can tackle some of our issues. Forge Fiends getting touched by Brewlord Gene Stealers don't like that. And they also don't have a good time trying to shoot down a Nord. Imperial Knights, Knights in general, because Chaos Knights too. Titanic, can't Overwatch, and then get tied up by a bunch of shitters that have devastating wounds. Yeah, they have a Feel No Pain, and Imperial Knights have a Feel No Pain, so less effective versus them. But uh, yeah, that can be some good amounts of annoyance to take out their ankles. Just real. Uh, you know, as a former mythology buff, I can't believe that I'm blanking on it right now. But Greek, tie them down. But either way, might work out on that extent. Death Guard is kind of a fuck us, so I really maybe not on that one. But if our toughness is already low on the Brewlord Gene Stealers, who gives a fuck, right? Yeah, if they go from winning this on threes to threes, realistically it'll be 3-2. I know, but hey, that's just the Tyranids theory. Yeah, this is rambling on. I just say all this to say, what ideas do you have to fill out a list like this? I look forward to our cooperation in the hive mind. So yeah, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.